All right, we are live. So welcome back to DAP University. So today we got a lot to talk about in our live stream. The first big thing is that we have crypto regulations inside the United States probably on the horizon, all right, and an executive order coming out potentially this week, all right, about what that could look like. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at a lot of the news updates that have happened in this space since our live stream yesterday. Again, we do our live streams Monday through Friday on this channel. Just subscribe, turn on notifications. You'll find out about those whenever we go live. We're going to check on the crypto markets, answer some of your questions, and a lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step by step, start to finish, then head on over to dapuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. Last but not least, nothing else in these videos will be financial advice, and there's lots of scammers that comment in these videos. Just ignore them. Like, I'm never going to give you my phone number on YouTube, never going to ask you to invest with me. It's absolutely crazy. So we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Automatic Beats. We got Quinn, I hope I'm saying that right. Metaverse Creations, Machiavelli, Landon, Ethan, Automatic Beats, Ali, hope I'm saying that right. Winners take risks. I like that. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's talk about crypto regulations in the United States and some updates on this, okay? So I just saw this come out yesterday. We talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago, where we've seen multiple updates that President Biden in the United States would likely sign an executive order talking about regulating cryptocurrencies and talking about what a central bank digital currency would look like in the United States. All right, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We heard rumors that essentially it would happen during that week. Did not end up happening. But we're seeing this kind of come back around full circle to where this executive order might happen this week. All right, so let's kind of dive into this, what this could look like and what this could mean for crypto regulations in the coming years, okay? So basically, President Joe Biden is reportedly preparing to sign an executive order on cryptocurrency policy this week, according to a report here. We'll check on the actual original report here in a minute. Which side, basically, so the order, which may seek to appoint an individual with regulatory authority to oversee crypto market, could come as early as Wednesday. All right, so this could be literally tomorrow. So the jurisdiction of digital asset market oversight continues to burn in the minds of regulators eager to close the gap on what they perceive as trading activity occurring outside their remit. All right, so last month, Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or the CFTC, chair told the Senate committee hearing his agency wanted to be in charge with regulating the crypto spot market. So during that hearing, we see some back and forth about all this. Okay, so the big point here, and we can check on the original report here in a minute, is that there's currently no clear authority on who's going to do regulations for crypto, the entire market itself, okay, or the different use cases for it. So that looks like, one of the primary intentions here is to say, all right, this is your job, okay, you take care of this. And that is sort of the first sort of link in the chain before, we start to see some real solid regulations around the entire crypto industry inside the United States. Of course, we have some regulations now where it's very clear, but there's lots of things that are not quite as clear that will likely get cleared up in the coming months. So let's actually look at the original report because it's got some more details inside of it. Okay. So basically, same story, basically talking about how is likely to sign a long-awaited executive order. This is from someone familiar with the matter, so we don't exactly know who this is or whether this is for sure going to happen this week. But if we just take it at face value, that's what the intention here is. So basically, the White House said last year that it was considering a wide-ranging oversight of the cryptocurrency market, including an executive order to deal with the growing threat of ransomware and other cybercrime. Okay, we saw this where basically people are doing things like ransomware attacks. If you don't really know what that is, it's basically where somebody sends you kind of like a virus, basically, something that you download in your computer, maybe on your software system in some way, that just holds your entire system hostage unless you comply with some sort of request. It's a ransom. Think about kidnapping somebody and taking them hostage. And then you say, hey, we've got your child or something, whatever it is, right? And then you have to pay us less money and we'll give you that person back. So it's a similar type of thing. Maybe you own a massive company, and then we do some sort of data breach, all right, and then we take you take all your customer data, and then we say, all right, you pay us $1 million, or that's kind of low for a big ransom like this, but let's say you pay us $50 million and we give you all this stuff back. Okay. And you just pay us in Bitcoin. That's the whole idea. So like if you pay us in crypto, we could maybe get away with it. Right. And then you just turn your stuff back on and you have to hear from us again. So that's like what ransomware is. We've seen lots of concerns about that type of thing. And that's one of the primary concerns that they've talked about. So, and what could be a timeline for this? And we could actually start seeing regulations coming for cryptocurrency in the United States. So basically, Biden's order sets a 180-day deadline for a series of reports on the future of money, all right, the role cryptocurrencies will play in this evolving landscape. So we could see a significant shift in policy within 180 days. That's within the inside of this year. This is likely a step towards the creation of a central bank digital currency. All right, the source said, citing significant momentum behind such a move with the Biden administration. All right. Basically, however, the report's concern could still raise concerns about such a move or conclude that it would require congressional approval. So there could be some friction on this. But the big things to talk about are basically what would regulations look like in the United States based on these findings? Some of this is speculation. What would a timeline look like? And, what does that mean for you? So basically, I think the most likely thing that was going to happen here is we're going to talk about is that a lot of the negatives around the crypto markets are going to be used to build a case against crypto and say, like, this is what we want to push away, and this is what we want to do instead. So I mean, like, there's not an accident that you're saying like the bad things that happen with crypto in the same sort of like report as like what we could do differently, which is a central bank digital currency. If you don't regulate, you don't tend to regulate things you intend to. You don't ban things you intend to regulate, right? If it was just like a thing where we said all crypto is bad, we're just going to ban it, all right, you wouldn't probably see this type of thing. I don't think we're going to see an executive order that comes out and says you just can't use crypto anymore. It's likely just going to put limits on what can be done with crypto. Okay, in lieu of, to push you towards doing something else, and that looks like most likely scenario is to push you towards using something like a central bank digital currency. If that's, if they decide that they want to do that type of thing. Now it's not totally clear, all right, but we've been seeing this kind of move in that direction over time. That they've been talking about a central bank digital currency and what that could possibly look like. So, again, I don't think crypto is going to get banned because I don't think it's in the best interest of really, the United States to do that, or the incentives are really there because there's so much tax revenue that you could potentially lose out on, so much GDP growth in this space. I really don't think it's going to just get banned. All right. But we could see some type of regulations that, that try to cite sort of the bad aspects of crypto to build a case towards pushing them something which they kind of want you to use, which might be a CBDC. And also, talking about citing the fears of what happens with privately issued stablecoins. I think that stablecoins are probably one of the most likely candidates to be in the crosshairs of regulators because, the stablecoins look suspiciously like what the central bank do in terms of issuing fiat currencies. And people are going to instantly harken back to the events that took place with private banks around the time of the Great Depression with bank runs, all that type of stuff before we implemented fractional reserve banking, which arguably is not much better. But anyways, so that's probably what's going to happen. And my final take on this is that with regulations on crypto in the United States, I do think that regulations are essentially like, we can't avoid them in my opinion, right? Like they're coming. The real question is, can we get the best trade-offs possible? I mean, I'm a realist in that sense. I do think that crypto can exist just fine without, or just with the amount of regulations that it has now, without more regulations, I should say. But I'm a realist to think that that's not going to be the future. And so how do we just find the best trade-off for everybody involved? And I think, trying to do that is definitely the path forward. So let's see, we got any... I just stopped my virtual camera. Hold on, everybody. All right. Everybody still hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear.
Sorry, little technical difficulty here. Click the wrong button. So let me know what you think down the live chat replay. Are we going to see something come out this week? Is it going to get pushed back again? What do you think is going to happen to regulations on crypto in the United States?
Much like that report stated, I think that more or less we're just going to get a framework of like how they want to approach the process of looking into it this week. I think it's more of like an announcement of like, hey, it's coming, and like, hey, these departments have to actually do something,
Right?
Because the government doesn't move fast at all, right?
Yeah, it's 100% true. I guess the thing that if we take any of the claims at face value in the report that we could see a significant shift in policy within 180 days, that's pretty soon in terms of government time. You know what I mean? Like that's within inside of this year. So if within inside of this year, crypto now we have clarity on how it's going to be regulated. That's fast. If we see that kind of ball put in motion this week, I think that would defy a lot of people's expectations.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. Just want to dispel people out there that are thinking that like something's happening this week. It's immediately taking effect. Like it's definitely going to happen this year, like you said. And definitely to your point, it's fast for government. But, this week is more or less the announcement, more or less giving us an idea of what's going to go down and like how the framework is going to be set up in that regard.
Yeah, totally. Somebody said this. So people in the chat are saying most likely, let's say most definitely something will happen this week. How will this affect Web 3.0 and blockchain? That's a good question. So we've seen, lots of the good news is I have a feeling this will not have any significant impact on most developers or people trying to get in the space to build the tech. So here's why I think that. So we saw, the infrastructure bill go through at the end of last year, or basically the language drafted that was talking about brokers in the crypto space, or about like basically it used such broad language where like there's so many people who use blockchain could be classified as brokers. The language is so broad it let lawmakers essentially basically let people enforce cumbersome rules on people who are clearly not brokers. This could be stakers, validators, miners, developers who put smart contracts on the network, all that type of stuff. And, a lot of people just kind of like lost their mind. We're like, what are you thinking? Like this language is terrible. It needs to get revised. And we saw a lot of push for doing that to like try to get this language revised. And so the last update I saw on this, don't quote me on this, was the language itself was not revised, but we saw lots of clear intentions that like people like developers and, stakers and stuff like that would not fall under this. Okay. In terms of saying like, hey, you can't do this without, qualifying as a broker and then, issuing tax documents to everybody who interacts with you on the blockchain. Basically, it would make it impossible for you to do anything and actually comply with the law. That was the whole point. So somebody can fact check me down in the comment section below or in the live chat replay. I don't think the language actually got revised. We did see quite a bit of indication that developers wouldn't fall into the scope of that. So similarly, I don't think that like, I don't think that's one of the main reasons we have a history of people at least stating their intentions that they don't want to do that. I realize that intentions versus actions are totally different things. But here's why I back up with the actions in terms of incentives. Like I said before, you don't tend to regulate things you intend to ban and vice versa. So like the incentives are not there, I don't think, for the US to just like ban, its citizens from using blockchains. Because think about all the GDP growth, think about all the tax revenue that you would get from, people who are in the space, with high demand skills. That's good for the American economy. Okay. And, that's for developers. So how would this affect Web 3.0? How to affect blockchain? I don't think it means that like, hey, you're just not going to be able to do anything based on these new regulations. I think that's a very unlikely scenario.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that 1,000%. I think you're hitting the nail right on the head for sure.
Okay, so somebody's saying, I think he'll ask for reports on what to do because I won't get into all that. I'll let you read the comment in the comment section. I'll try to get too political in the chat. And I mean up here. I mean, y'all can do whatever you want to in the chat. You can't ask for scams.
So I have a question. What would you recommend to just general user right now, like to prepare themselves for some kind of action? We don't know what's going to happen, right? It's all speculative, but like,
right.
Is there anything someone can do right now to prepare for something?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I'm not sure there's a lot
We
you
don't
really
really
can
know.
do. Yeah, I'm not sure there's a lot you
Right.
really can do. And I feel like a lot of things that I could possibly say that aren't like things that you really should do. Would like
Right.
probably like financial advice. So it's like,
Right.
I'm not gonna do that.
I mean, one thing that comes to mind is obviously this is a legal, precedent that's occurring, and
Right.
because of
And I'm
that,
also not a legal expert.
and I'm not a legal expert. And my only advice, really, once we actually know what's happening, is like we have to, as users, like get involved in the governmental process. In other words, like it might make a lot of sense if this is like not a good bill or what's happening is not good, to be reaching out to like our local congressmen or local representatives, and speaking our minds, sending emails, making sure that they're aware that individuals themselves are very concerned about this and making sure that it's done the right way. It's technically political activism, but it's more or less just like expressing like your opinion to your local
Right.
representative.
Right. So basically, I would say this. That's a good point. If you have specific concerns about this, like, look, neither one of us pretend to be legal experts. We just try to stay plugged into the space, let you know what the conversation that's happening inside of crypto and keep you up to date and offer, sort of my, perspective on this as someone who's in the industry and cares about the tech, cares about where this space is headed. But, in terms of like legal advice, financial advice, accounting, like reach out to the people who are experts in that stuff and try to get some clarification. So, for example, like if you have concern about this in the United States and you have a representative who is familiar with what's actually happening, talk to them and say, "Hey, what are the implications of this?" I mean, like if you still, if you're just trying to get information for yourself, and you don't have sort of the drive to engage in political action and say, "Oh, we gotta change this," or whatever. Let's say you don't want to just go down that road. Like if you just want actual responsible information, like talk to them and see what it means for your jurisdiction. Similarly, for if you have a legal question about like talk to a legal person. It's like if you have a tax question about what that means, talk to a tax person. They have a people who are doing that have a fiduciary responsibility in terms of tax type stuff, or like a tax attorney even to give you good information, and it's frankly just outside the scope of what I do.
Susanna Brown says that her guy sent him a letter, and he wrote back basically talking about like cyber criminals and stuff like that. And I guess my advice to that, I mean, first, we've covered this for weeks now about like how cyber criminals in general, if you're looking to launder money through crypto, it's not the best way. The U.S. dollar is the best way, okay? But if your representative is pushing back with anti-crypto talk, vote them out. It's that simple.
So anyways, well, we'll let people make their own political decisions. You don't have to be a single issue voter here. So anyways, so with cyber criminal activity, yeah, I mean, it gets a bad rap on crypto. I mean, it just depends. I mean, most cyber criminals are not good criminals, and that's one of the reasons that crypto's not end up being a good thing. There's a reason people do it. So yeah, it's one of those kind of gray issues, but yeah, definitely like when politicians try to say that crypto is bad for this reason, it's like, yeah, it's not a complete argument for everything.
It was funny because when I was watching the stablecoin hearing that occurred, I think it was like last month or late January, that's down in DC. And of course, all the big representatives showed up, like Coinbase and Jeremy Allaire from Circle and etc. They posed a question to the panel of like, do you guys feel like you're regulated? And like everybody just started laughing. They broke the quorum. Everyone started laughing because of course the crypto industry already feels like it's very, very heavily regulated, and it is. So that's why this week's, what happens this week is going to be all eyes on it, because I mean, we're already pretty regulated as it is, and seeing where they take it next is going to be, very important for our institutions.
Yeah, totally. So let me actually pull up here.
Blockchain Barber says self-custody is what everyone should learn. Agreed. 1,000%. Not your keys, not your crypto. That's what they say.
Yeah, self-custody is a good thing to learn. You definitely want to devise your own security scheme for how you store your crypto. We do not have official advice on how to do all that. I'm not saying you should necessarily go self-custody all your crypto. Frankly, that's not the right choice for everybody. You have to kind of make up your own mind of what the best choice is for you based on the amount of crypto that you have, all that type of stuff. So let's see here. So there's actually a pretty interesting project. I'll switch gears here for just 1 minute. We can talk about a couple other things. So a lot of people are saying like, hey, what kind of project can I do if I'm trying to, get in the blockchain space? How can I contribute in kind of an easy way? Okay. Whether you're trying to build your portfolio, build your resume, or just, do something where you feel like you move the needle a little bit. And one of the easiest ways to do that is actually open source contributions. Okay. For stuff that's like not that hard for beginners. Because if you're trying to like break in the industry and actually like, prove your technical skills, which is, primarily what we focus on this channel, then you once you've like learned how to create something and put it out there, and you want to break in, you have to show people what you can do. Okay, you have to show them that you have sort of the skills, and you can do that by building portfolio projects for sure. And finding a way to market yourself. But in addition to that, you can also contribute to open source projects. We talked about there are grants out there, or even bounties that you can do for developers. You work with DAOs, all that type of stuff. But you can also do some stuff for free because you're trying to gain experience that gets your name out there and proves that you've done something. And there's actually a pretty easy open source project that came up that I think would be really good for beginners. So just add some value and then just go through the process of doing some sort of open source contribution. So let me pull up my screen here. So this is for Lobster DAO, is that right, Walshy?
Yeah. Yep.
So basically, they have a growing repository that basically just tracks like useful resources for blockchain developers that they can just use and reference. And honestly, like right now, all it is just like, what's the location of some really influential smart contracts or that people use all the time, and like what are their addresses on each environment. Okay. And there's a few projects on here right now. It's kind of light, but this is something that can be easily expanded to be a lot useful for more developers. And it's something that would be like laughably simple for a beginner to contribute toward. I don't mean that to like talk it down. I'm just saying like, hey, this is a good opportunity. If you're trying to figure out, just go through the motions of what does it look like to do an open source contribution that you can use for your resume, and then it kind of give you some confidence boost to move forward and do something maybe even a little bit harder. You just have to find out where are the high value projects, where are they on different environments, contribute to this, open a pull request, ask for approval, and then boom, you've done your first open source contribution.
Yeah, that's great advice. And credit to that last tool set goes to Drinkius. So thanks so much, man.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, that's just an idea. I don't see necessarily on the repo that it says you can contribute by extending the list or help verify deployments are correct across all networks. Yeah, totally. There's an open request for contributors, and that'd be a really easy thing for beginners to do. Let's see here. Somebody says I want to get into. Yeah, let's see here. Hold on a second. Let's see here. So this is a good question. He says, if Asia adopts Bitcoin, they're including Russia, China, and India, do you think that West will also have to adopt it because China has UnionPay, Russia is huge in crypto, and now India is also coming with digital rupee soon? It just depends on. So the question is adapting Bitcoin. I mean, it depends on what that looks like, right? Like, I really don't think there's a near future where like the United States, uses Bitcoin in an official capacity. I really just don't think that's going to happen. But, I think, moving towards a central bank digital currency seems very likely. The ability for people to freely use Bitcoin, we could do that now. So And we don't know what a central bank digital currency would look like. Is it actually going to be a crypto, or is it just going to be like a Fed coin that just like runs on a, centralized server? I don't know.
I hope not. Definitely not. I know that local governments are definitely intrigued by this. There's a DAO. It's called ATX DAO. It's Austin, Texas, and they hosted an event. I think it was like a week ago or so, which a very impressive amount of people showed up, and not just the number of people. So the state senate, one of the state senators showed up. A couple of House representatives showed up, as well as local mayors showed up to this event being held. So I don't know if Bitcoin is going to get adopted by the government, even though we've seen a couple bills and we've reported on a couple bills of it getting introduced to state legislature quite recently. But I definitely know that there's a massive amount of interest from local governments and state governments, and of course, federal government, into crypto. And so they're trying to figure out the best way right now. It's very active. So shout out to ATX DAO, doing a great job corralling all the right people.
Yeah, I mean, another possibility is, Bitcoin basically classified as legal tender, which, could have tax implications, could have lots of other implications as well. We're seeing that kind of being proposed at certain state levels, but there's difference between state and federal, right? So just because a state might, let's just say it actually passed in a state, that doesn't mean that you're outside the U.S. federal regulations or tax, laws on crypto transactions. I don't know. I'm not super optimistic about the U.S. adopting Bitcoin as legal tender anytime soon either, but I, could be wrong about that one.
It's fun to watch. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I just don't see the incentives, right? I don't see the incentives for it to happen. But like I said, I'm not gonna place a big bet on that. There's no way for me to place a big bet on that. Just doesn't seem super likely in my opinion.
And I'm not a financial expert whatsoever, but the United States did move away from like a limited supply currency, or in other words, the gold reserve, gold standard rather. Thank you. Back in the 70s, and they went to more of an inflationary model as opposed to a deflationary model. And so for them to revert and go back to a deflationary model wouldn't make too much sense, at least from their standpoint. But that's all speculative. Who knows we're going to find out soon what they're going to do. But I wouldn't see them going back to a deflationary model. If anything, it's more, they'd probably stick with like a newer inflationary model that's more centralized, like in a CBDC, in conjunction with their legal tender. But who knows if they'll come up with like a hybrid system or if they'll stick to one or the other, right? That's where, that's where all the speculation comes in.
Yeah. US went off the gold standard in the 30s.
Oh, right. It was wasn't it Bretton Woods in the 70s?
I don't know. I don't know what happened in the 70s. We've been off the gold standard for a long time. So yeah, somebody saying the Bitcoin standard. Yeah, you can definitely check out that book if you want to kind of get some ideas on, what it looks like for crypto to kind of be a bigger thing. That's not necessarily what the premise of the book is. It's not talking about creating a Bitcoin standard in the United States, but it's an interesting book if you want the bigger kind of philosophy on Bitcoin. All right, everybody. That's all I got for today. If you have anything you're excited to talk about on our live streams, you can ping Walshy on Twitter as his Twitter handle down there. If you, yeah, definitely. If you see anything that you're like, hey, we just got to talk about this, you can put in the live chat replay and ping Walshy on Twitter. You're as fast in this technology as I am. You want to get your hands dirty. How can you get started today? You can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you went to the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, actually become a blockchain master step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. And until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.